The history of penicillin. In 1906, a man named Andrew Fleming became a research assistant at St. Mary's Hospital in London. Here he began to work for a man named Amroth Wright. Both of these men went to France during the First World War to treat soldiers. However, from their observations, they were able to see that there wasn't an effective treatment for the wounds. After returning from a holiday break, Fleming became determined to find a way to kill germs. He began to study Staphylococcus, which is bacteria that would make wounds go septic or poisonous, and noticed that mold had started to grow on a petri dish he had been studying. This newfound mold prevented the growth of bacteria, and the antibiotic known as penicillin was born. An antibiotic is a chemical that kills bacteria through many different mechanisms. One of the mechanisms antibiotics use is blocking cell wall synthesis. Without a cell wall, the cell will burst and die. One of the other ways antibiotics kill bacteria is by blocking the replication of DNA or damaging prokaryotic DNA. Without functioning DNA, the bacteria will die. Antibiotics also kill bacteria by damaging the prokaryotic plasma membrane. Without an intact membrane, the cell will ooze cytoplasm and die. Although Fleming discovered penicillin in 1928, no further research was conducted to produce large quantities of penicillin due to the lack of funds and specialist help. Then in 1930, two men named Howard Florey and Ernst Chain decided to find a way to turn penicillin into a drug that would be more suitable to humans. In May of 1940, Florey and Chain injected 8 mice with hemolytic streptococcus, and out of these 8, they injected 4 mice with doses of penicillin. 16.5 hours later, the scientists realized that the 4 mice injected with penicillin survived, but the others did not. The results of this experiment caused great excitement among scientists as they wanted to explore the depths of penicillin. In January of 1941, Florey was ready to test penicillin on humans. A policeman named Albert Alexander, aged 48, became the first patient with an infection to be treated with penicillin. Alexander scratched his face working in a rose garden, and the scratch was infected with streptococcus and staphylococcus, and it spread to his eyes and scalp. Although Alexander was admitted to the Radcliffe Infirmary, the infection worsened, which allowed him to be treated with different drugs, but those did not work, causing them to try their quote-unquote purified penicillin. Due to the fact that no one knew the dosages or lengths of treatment, the policeman's condition first improved when injected with penicillin. However, when the penicillin ran out, his condition relapsed and he ultimately died. From that point on, Florey vowed to always have enough penicillin to treat soldiers and patients. Aside from Florey and Chain, a new man named Norman Heatley would come along in the 1940s to help with the mass production of penicillin. To obtain the help of the U.S. in mass-producing penicillin, Florey and Heatley flew across the Atlantic in order to meet with the laboratory director in Illinois, who agreed to assist Florey in penicillin production. The mass production of penicillin saved many lives. Throughout wars, the major killer was infection, but with penicillin, those deaths could be prevented. And during World War I, 18% of the people who fought in the war died from bacterial pneumonia. But with penicillin during World War II, less than 1% died from bacterial pneumonia. By the end of World War II, pharmaceutical companies were producing 650 billion units of penicillin a month. The increase in mass production can be seen through the testing protocols of back then and now. Back then, there was no consent needed to be tested on, there were impure drug samples, and testing was rushed and fast. Now, consent is needed, drug samples are tested and purified first, and testing takes many years.